In the exciting world of mechanical keyboards, one of the most common complaints to a keyboard is that it has north-facing switch orientation. North-facing switches lead to keycap interference with cherry profile keycaps, but is it really that big of a deal? Before we start the video, only a small percentage of those that watch my video are actually subscribed, so if you enjoyed today's video, consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. It's free and you can always change your mind later. With that being said, here's a quick word from today's sponsor. Are you looking to help the planet? Then check out these refurbished phones from Popsy. They have high quality iPhones starting from around $100. Buying refurbished promotes zero waste and helps save carbon emissions. So download the app on iOS or Android and check out the link to see their offers. Keycap interference has become one of those things that people use to make or break a keyboard design. You can have the best designs and features on a keyboard, but if it has north-facing switches, people will complain about it and be hesitant to buy it, myself included. But how did it end up like this? To understand why people are so passionate about keycap interference, you first need to understand what it is. Keycap interference occurs when you put on cherry profile keycaps on north-facing switches. Since cherry profile keycaps are lower in height compared to other keycaps, they will hit the top of the switches, which can not only prevent proper bottom out, but also affect the sound and feel negatively. Back when I joined the hobby in 2019, this wasn't as widely known, nor was it that big of a deal, but as the mechanical keyboard hobby became more and more mainstream, there were more people spreading the knowledge of keycap interference to the point where now it is a must-have to have south-facing switches. So why don't companies just stop making keyboards with north-facing switch orientations, and why do people love cherry profile keycaps so much? Keyboards with north-facing switch orientations are the most common in lower-end keyboards, especially those that a lot of people consider as gaming keyboards. This is because those keyboards usually have shine-through keycaps and north-facing switches allow for brighter RGB compared to south-facing switches. It makes sense because if you're not really into the mechanical keyboard hobby, then you don't really care enough about sound and feel. You just want something that looks good for when you're gaming. This isn't an issue at all when you look at higher-end boards, since those are appealing to an audience who actually cares about sound and feel, so they normally are designed with south-facing switches. It's simply two different markets. When looking at why people love cherry profile keycaps so much, to put it as simply as possible, it's because of GMK keycaps. Although cherry profile keycaps have been around since the original cherry keyboards, GMK keycaps is pretty much the most well known in today's modern era, and has become the go-to when it comes to high-end keycaps. Therefore, a lot of companies produce cherry profile keycaps because a lot of people love GMK keycaps and want something similar, maybe even at a cheaper price as well. Cherry profile keycaps are familiar to us since a lot of people usually use OEM profile keycaps on their first keyboard. So the problem of keycap interference occurs as the more someone gets into the hobby. Let's say you just bought a cheap keyboard as your first board, but you're looking to upgrade your keycaps later on. You see everyone having GMK keycaps, so you want something similar and get some cherry profile keycaps only to experience keycap interference. If you're not aware of keycap interference, good for you, because once you do, you won't be able to ignore it. The typing experience isn't as satisfying with the bottom out being worse in both feel and sound. Going back to why a lot of companies choose to make keyboards with north-facing switch orientation, I was told that a lot of people in China actually prefer SA profile keycaps over cherry profile keycaps. And since a lot of Chinese companies produce a lot of these keyboards, having south-facing switch orientation wasn't that important. But companies like Echo, who I work with a lot, are aware of the community preference for south-facing switch orientation and are working to create new keyboards that implement them. So at the end of the day, is keycap interference really that big of a deal? Yes and no. Yes, because it is noticeably bad if you're aware of it. You know what they say, ignorance is bliss. But also no, because there are solutions to it as well. The most obvious one is to not use cherry profile keycaps. There's plenty of other cool keycap profiles, and one of my personal favorites is MT3 that drop cells. But if you still want to use cherry profile keycaps, people have found creative solutions like using washers to create additional height and avoid interference. The solution that I tend to like is using switches with longer stems. The longer stem also creates additional height that helps avoid the interference. There are plenty of switches out there with longer stems like Holy Pandas, Salmons, Huskies, and even Echo CS Silver switches. I'll leave links to them below if you want to check them out. But what are your thoughts on keycap interference? Let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, I just want to ask you to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I got a lot more exciting content coming up that you don't want to miss. Also, go follow my socials like Instagram and TikTok. I've been your host Brian Stormy, typing up a storm, and until next time, stay safe and take care.